more reaction to the address by the President last night regarding the state capture reports and the recommendations and how government is planning to respond to these recommendations. I'm joined now by political analyst and author Ivor Chipkin. He's, of course, the author of Shadow State, The Politics of State Capture. Ivor, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to ask you a similar question I asked the two previous analysts I spoke to when I started this discussion. Your overall impressions of what the President announced last night?
Well, I think I'm perhaps a little less gloomy than the others, although the point around the President's survival in 2 months' time is pertinent and of course, deeply concerning, because I think there is a process. I don't think there's momentum yet, but there's the beginnings of momentum towards some sort of reform of government. I think the spirit of the announcements which Ramaphosa made yesterday, of course, not substantial announcements, deeply flawed in all sorts of areas, but there was a certain spirit in them. If you take, for example, the announcement around how SOE boards must behave, there's a certain mood in that announcement which I think is important. What is the mood? Well, asking ministers to step back from getting involved in the operations of the SOEs. Telling boards not to become involved in procurement. I think the mood there, the spirit there, very, very embryonic, something which we really have to fight to advance, but it's this idea of separating political office from administrative office. That politicians and administrators are separate functions, and they need to respect their relative autonomy. This is a mood, this is a spirit which is fundamentally lacking in the organization of the South African government. It's been lacking not just during the Zuma period, since the 1990s. Indeed, the African National Congress went very, very far in preventing that separation from emerging. So we have a highly politicized government structure. I think the mood of those announcements are beginning to recognize that conflation of political and administrative role is a fundamental problem, and they're beginning potentially to address it. Having said that, if Ramaphosa goes in December, it's very likely that there's not even momentum. The early stages of momentum, if one can talk like that, is going to come to an end.
If he stays, he survives Phala Phala Farm come December, he gets a second term as the ANC president. How confident can we be that whatever he's around will come to fruition, or that this beginning of this momentum that you're speaking about will gain impetus?
I don't think we can be too confident. I think we're going to see a very uneven picture emerging if he survives December, if he survives Phala Phala. And I think it'll often depend on the dynamics in the African National Congress. So on the one hand, there are many in the ANC which are deeply invested in this blurring between political and administrative roles, because it allows politicians to deploy their allies, their friends, their colleagues into key positions in the state. So I think that there's strong support and strong investment in that kind of blurring. On the other hand, that blurring is responsible, I think, overwhelmingly for the catastrophic performance of the ANC government in municipalities and provincial governments, in national governments. It's almost without exception is the failure of government administrations to perform on their mandates. And I think a lot of that blurring has got to do with that. So on the one hand, it provides opportunities for people in the ANC. On the other hand, it fundamentally endangers the ANC as a party electorally. So it's clearly losing massive support. I think these are going to be the terms of the contest going forward, and the future of the ANC and the future of the country, to a large extent, will depend on how that plays out. That's my sense of it.
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know if we are sort of focusing on this too much. People can say we're conflating issues, but the ANC's elective conference in December is a big occasion that's ahead right now within 2 months. But next month, the parliamentary panel that's been appointed to decide whether or not there's a prima facie case for the president about Phala Phala Farm will make its findings known and public, and that will come in a month before December. So no matter how you look at the picture on the ability and to address state capture issues, implement those recommendations, you cannot ignore what's coming next month from Parliament.
No, and I absolutely, and I mean, I think Thabo Mbeki made a, I think on Sunday it was, there were all the presidents, all the former presidents and former presidents were making statements. Saturday and Sunday, this was an important weekend for presidential statements, and of course that was Thabo Mbeki's statement. We need to prepare ourselves for the very possibility that Ramaphosa will be removed or will have to stand down, given what happened at Phala. My own sense is that there is not enough momentum from elsewhere for public service reform other than from his administration. So we can be profoundly critical of this administration, and I think we need to be. But there have nonetheless been very slow, tentative. There have been movements towards government reform. There's the reform, there's the professionalization of the public service, which is currently going on, and apparently there's a new final document that will be released soon. There is a bill on procurement reform, which is sort of winding its way, one hopes, through the legislative process. There are these announcements to take forward some of the proposals from the Zondo Commission. These are within the space of Ramaphosa's administration. I doubt that there are other parties in the ANC that equally share a sense of urgency around these issues. Certainly, if not even urgency, would support reform in these directions at all. So I think there's a tentative opening. Whether it survives the next couple of weeks, I think this is where we are in the country. I'm not sure they will survive.
We'll have to wait and see. Thank you very much for your time as usual, Ivor. Your insights. That's Ivor Chipkin there, an author and political analyst, just sharing with us some of the insights, reflections from last night's speech by the president. Now,